Some say a poor man is made out of mud. A poor man's made out of muscle and blood. Muscle and blood and skin and bones. A mind that's weak, but a back that's strong. Ooh, 16 tons. What do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt. St. Peter, don't you call me, 'cause I can't go, 'cause I owe my soul to the company store.
16 Tons is a 1946 song written by Merle Travis about the exploitation of coal miners in Kentucky, USA. And if you're 100 years old like me, you might have heard the better known version performed by Tennessee Ernest Ford. Travis's brother, who worked in a coal mine, wrote him a letter containing the line, "You load 16 tons, and what do you get? Another day older and deeper in debt," referring to the fact that it was nearly impossible for a coal miner working under the script system to get out of the cycle of debt. A script is an old word used for the type of compensation where companies would give their employees a form of non-transferable credit, only to be used at that company's particular store. People were basically just printing out fake monopoly money and handing it out back then, right? Workers would also live on site in company-provided housing where their rent was automatically deducted from their pay. Workers would also live in terrible conditions, along with whatever itis they caught from pounding back fumes straight into their lungs. Since coal mines were often far away in remote areas of the US, these companies often had little to no competition on necessities such as fucking water, for example. Coal companies would also graciously allow you to buy their overpriced goods on credit, which was also deducted from your next paycheck, eventually fostering a sense of financial obligation to the company. Now, this shit was peak capitalism, right? Fucking debt slavery. Work here till you die. Become part of the family. We have yoga balls. The idea of the company store was one of the most reviled forms of economics, referred to by an economic historian as a collector of souls through perpetual debt peonage. This type of unethical compensation would end with the rise of united labor unions. Now, you may ask, what the hell does that have to do with Lost Ark? Well, that has everything to do with Lost Ark. That song was written in 1946, and 76 years later, in 2012, a soft, gentle Korean man heard 16 Tons, took it as a manual, and then learned to animate some titties, and Lost Ark was born. What a fucking legend. Lost Ark has been a relatively large success here in the West, which is an interesting experiment for those of us here, because it's one of those special icebreakers, a pay-to-win game made expressly for PC that's actually pretty good. We used to think those type of games were relegated to the mobile market, but Lost Ark is a free-to-play game that you can actually sink time into without actually having to spend hundreds of dollars in order to compete with the top players. But with Lost Ark's success, other American AAA game studios will now have a proven formula to replicate in their own games. Lost Ark's success may spell greatness for Smilegate, but may open up a can of worms that we're not ready for. Well, why talk about this now, Suryukum bro? Well, it's because the stench of the free-to-play business model has permeated into the hardcore gaming space, and it's here to stay. Loot boxes were just a test. Genshin Impact was just the beginning. Every year, it is garnering more and more attention from news outlets. It's gotten to a point where in-house Twitch trichologist and homeless Jesus cosplayer Osmongold may have a chance to speak with US Senator Ted Cruz about the predatory nature of gambling in free-to-play games. Trust me when I say, You want as little government policy on anything media related, because no matter what side of the political spectrum you are on, we can all agree that the government always fucks it up. Sadly, because of its predatory implications, it might turn away some players, which is fine. You are not this game's target audience. And that's so unfortunate, because Lost Ark is a great and stylish game buried underneath the irrefutable wet blanket that is the free-to-play business model. A beautiful, fleshed out video game filled with content made by developers who seem to actually care about the game. But the monetization system casts a very large shadow that is hard to ignore. That 16 tons of coal on your back is getting heavier. And with all free-to-play games, the more you play, the larger that shadow grows, and the weight gets heavier and heavier. And regardless of your opinion on the pay-to-win / free-to-play business model, it is a fun game that's designed to cater to all levels of the economic food chain, from all the cute little planktons to the thick-ass whales. And that's why it's so deceptive. There's somewhat of a subtle grooming here, breaking down and lowering the guard of us Western players into the free-to-play business model. A business model that can learn how to accurately assess exactly how much maximum profit to extract out of your wallet in as little as 4 days. My temperament towards Lost Ark is one of morbid admiration, like a scammer pulling off the perfect grift, or this guy shooting hot dogs out of his mouth. Lost Ark is sort of a heartbringer for things to come, where paying for convenience features is the norm. Convoluted mechanics that serve to confuse or frustrate the player into opening their wallets. Game systems centered around artificially extending playtime and boosting player count to remain relevant for as long as possible. We live in a world. We live in a society. We live in a world where huge conglomerates are researching the most effective ways of stealing as much time from your day as possible. So, we have to ask ourselves, is it immoral to design video games this way? A hobby filled with people that already lack self-control, time management, and mental stability. Disclaimer, this is not a full in-depth review of the game. I will be mainly discussing Lost Ark and its merits as a piece of entertainment, and also the morality of the pay-to-win system being normalized in the West. I will preface this video and say I've played Lost Ark for about 500 hours now, and I've spent around $100, $20 for the Ark Pass, and 2 skins, and I still have $40 worth of Royal Crystals just sitting in the cash shop. Now, that's a lot of money for some people, but pocket change to some. And your experience in Lost Ark will vary wildly based on your real life income. Okay, I just want to say something real quick. I believe that you should be able to spend your money however you want. It's yours. We cannot define how an individual chooses to spend their time and money. Many forms of entertainment are just perceived worth anyways. But I will take a stance on that right now. Nothing will ever justify you spending hundreds, thousands, tens of thousands of dollars on a video game. Video games are some of the most cost-efficient forms of entertainment. That's a reason why many like myself enjoy video games. Lost Ark is definitely not as insidious as some other recent releases, but that's the unsettling thing. Lost Ark is just laying in the cut, in the shadows. Somewhere, right now, a person is deciding whether another 10 eye levels is worth digging into their rent money. And because this is an MMORPG game, it is made for the hardcore gamers. It is not the same market as the San Francisco techie killing time on his phone during lunch breaks. Lost Ark breaches a new market, the hardcore MMO player. People with more time than money. The same people who started playing vanilla WoW as teens are having kids now. Lost Ark seeks to monetize on the opportunity cost of balancing between either more time playing relevant content or more time playing with your kids. The opportunity cost of time and money. And Lost Ark is designed to steal either your time or your money. And if money is more important to you, Well, in this video, I'm gonna teach you how to beat Lost Ark for $0. That's right, folks, $0 motherfucking dollars. Transcend FOMO, as they say. But to transcend FOMO, you must understand FOMO. And to understand FOMO, you must understand how this game works. So, we're gonna break down the good shit. We're gonna break down the bad shit. We're gonna break down how to transcend FOMO. But most importantly, I will show you the location of the 7th and final arc. That's right, folks. Not even the motherfucking Koreans know where the fucking Lost Ark is, but I do. Lost Ark is a pretty incredible looking game considering that it's made in Unreal Engine 3. I suspect this is what initially drew the attention of a lot of gamers at first. The isometric nature of this game does not take away from the details at all. The amount of work put into the environments is no small task. All the areas look very unique, especially towards the middle to end game, where the game has some spectacular set pieces. It's not bleeding edge technology or anything like that, but the art direction lends itself very well to the general aesthetic without making your GPU scream. And you can tell exactly where and when they decided to put money into a particular story beat. And speaking of the story is your typical high fantasy utopia gone awry, with a lot of nuances in between, most likely lost in translation. And even with the limitations of a decade-old engine, I can tell that there was a lot of love and passion put into the cutscenes.
My knights. A great darkness has come over our land.
I notice many of the fine-tuning that goes into making a well-oiled user experience. But unfortunately, that's where the money stops. The English localization is wild. It ranges from meh to what the fuck.
What do we do now?
Oh no, what should we do?
Wait. What was that voice acting? Oh no! Why does it sound so sarcastic? And the dialogue is, "I'm at a loss too."
Oh no.
And it's hard to take the game seriously when the game doesn't exactly provoke any contemplative thoughts from its subject matter.
Dude, look at this. Oh, this is it. It's $28, baby. Oh, broke again. No, I'm not buying it. No. But I am so tempted to, and they know what they're doing, and fuck them.
The story is just there to loosely hold together the copyright infringement theme park that is Arcadia. And actually, that's another great thing about this game. The developers of this game aren't exactly what I would call copyright violators. I would instead call them intellectual property enthusiasts. I really wasn't exaggerating when I said Lost Ark is like a theme park. It is a theme park. It's a Monster Hunter game. It's also a dating simulator and a racing game. It's a motherfucking spreadsheet simulator. It's like Diablo and Path of Exile had a baby, but Final Fantasy XIV is the real dad. And she's fucking Animal Crossing on the side. It's also a boring ass grind with an endgame that consists of delivering packages across the world for below minimum wage, just like Daddy Bezos would have wanted. But 500 hours in, underneath all that clutter, is some of the most visceral and engaging combat that I've played in years. Okay, woo! The combat. Alright. The combat. The combat is the very glue, the secret sauce that holds Lost Ark together. And to be honest, the 1 through 50 leveling experience was pretty boring. Yeah, it was pretty fucking boring. Your G key is gonna get a real workout. But after I got a taste of that first bit of endgame, I was hooked. Now, I really enjoyed Elden Ring. It makes you feel small and vulnerable, so every victory edged over your enemy feels like a monumental achievement. But, not gonna lie man, did I miss the over-the-top power fantasy. Remember how I said Lost Ark is kind of like a theme park? Well, it's because Lost Ark tries to cater its gameplay to many different types of players, giving you little bits of familiar experiences from other games, but never the full package. Watch shit explode in the Chaos Dungeons for the Diablo fan. Do you like Monster Hunter? Well, the feeling of conquering a colossal beast through collected knowledge and strategy is reflected in the Guardian raids. Then, the real fun begins with the classic 4 to 8 man endgame raids requiring tight coordination with your party members to get through some of the hardest and most complex MMO mechanics that this game has to offer.
Hey everybody, today I'm breaking down what an endgame encounter is like in Lost Ark Korea currently. The fight we're looking at is the 5th Gateway, the Legion Commander Abershot's raid. This weekly raid is split into 6 different boss encounters. Gateway 5 pits you against the Queen of Nightmares herself, Abershot. She has 23 billion HP in this encounter. She has a total of 31 different patterns that can be used in any random order between major HP over by the last summoning of shapes. Needles and line telegraphs are has to be avoided, and if it touches another one of the has an incorrect number of stacks, then it wipes the right portal, and then in the left side portal, everyone's successful players. She takes the battle up in space, and the real battle against the real boss begins at that point.
While you may argue that there are other MMOs with equally, if not more complex mechanics, I would argue, however, that Lost Ark is more difficult in 2 ways. 1. The sheer speed and pace of combat, and 2. The personal accountability of the player. This game is designed in such a way that the party's success or failure is tied to the skill of each individual player more so than the party's collective knowledge of the mechanics. Believe it or not, most damage in this game can be avoided. Now, this type of personal accountability can be intimidating for new players, but I urge you to push past that because there is something really rewarding to be mastered here. Everything about combat just flows so well together. The movement skills, synergy with your party members, all the unique classes. Combat is fluid and dynamic. You're always moving in some way, flipping over bosses with style, skills that send you surging forward. Movement is explosive. I initially thought that the isometric style would take away from its combat, but it really doesn't. This game has some of the coolest and most cinematic ultimate abilities that I've seen. Each class is so in-depth it may take weeks, even months before you truly master a class. By the way, I haven't tried every single class, but the classes I have tried feel fantastic. The moment I hit tier 3 with my sorceress, I immediately create another character, and then another, and then another. I just wanted to try all the classes, and there's something here for everyone. Lost Ark is not shy about taking liberties from other IPs, and I love it all the more for it. And playing multiple classes is highly encouraged. A lot of your items, quests, and collectibles are tracked roster-wide. Once your main character hits certain milestones, it will become easier for your lower tier characters to push into the new tier, alleviating the pain of grinding another character to max power. This is great. This should be an MMO standard. Collecting skill points, tripods on gear, or leveling engravings to their maximum effectiveness. Each breakpoint feels significant and impactful. Having enough skill points to get your 3rd and final tripod can mean the difference between nearly double the damage output. You'll be hunting down skill points like a fucking crack whore and simping to all these underage anime girls for every last collectible. And speaking of the collectible system is woven beautifully into the game, pushing you to explore the world of Arcadia. interacting with all its different game systems, and making some friends along the way. There is no shortage of things to do in this game, don't get me wrong. Not all the content is created equal, but all contribute towards meaningful gameplay change and unique playstyles. Lost Ark is fun because it's not afraid to challenge its players both mentally and physically. Okay, now that seems like a lot to worry about. And you're right, that is a lot to worry about. But the developers, they believe in you. This game is always pushing you towards something we call the fun zone.
We tried to shore that up, to make it, to hold the player accountable, to not let them out of the fun zone. You know, the fun zone is managing resources, it's doing all these different things, it's thinking constantly, it's using the right tool for the job, it's diving into progression. You know, it's what you'll see, shooting weak points of enemies, you know, all these different things. And when they don't play that way, we kill them. Right. Pretty much. The bet as a developer is that if I make you do this, you're going to love the game.
Yourself.
You're going to love the game. And probably early in development, that's a little bit of a scary bet.
Now, don't be ashamed of looking at guides either. I played Demon Souls, all of the Dark Souls, Bloodborne, Shadows Dig Twice, Elden Bling, and those games are confusing as fuck. But this game can take it to a whole nother level. I think I spend more time looking at guides about Lost Ark than I do actually playing Lost Ark. The clarity of the mechanics is further diluted because of the fact that this is a Korean game localized for North America. Skill effect terminology is not always accurate. Mistranslations are bound to happen and force us to go to a third party for more accurate information. But the combat alone is worth your time investment. Lost Ark has a lot of potential. I think they really managed to bottle some lightning here. It just feels good to play.
If it's not fun, why bother?
So good that it sounds like I'm basically shilling for Smilegate right now. I think you should give this game a try. I played my first 200 hours absolutely for free and I had a blast. Lost Ark is a game that builds upon itself, keeping what works and throwing away what doesn't. The reason Lost Ark is considered a good game is because of one fatal mistake. Never make your game too skill-based.
Make sure that your games aren't too skill-based. I made that mistake myself. A too skill-based game, you don't get people to pay you because there's no reason to.
Skill is ultimately the great equalizer of some of Lost Ark's most enjoyable content. But Smilegate and Amazon have to take it the rest of the way. It's not 2008 anymore. There are so many games that are fighting for our attention. Many games with the same business model as Lost Ark. Now, I've spent a lot of time talking about the combat and graphics, because unfortunately, that's where my good faith ends.
Dog, there's even one that's called Endless Debris. Please. Oh my god.
Okay, easy. Okay. This time.
One tap, baby!
Nope.
Are you fucking serious?
Lost Ark is not a game that is greater than the sum of its parts. Quite the opposite, I'm afraid. Now, instead of calling this game free to play, I'm going to be referring to it as pay to win, because that's what it is. It's a pay to win game. Now, you can't just directly buy power from the cash shop. No. That's too easy. You have to break the player.
Now I break you, like I break your friend.
So Lost Ark integrates one of the hardest mechanics for any gamer: basic arithmetic. It's no secret that these types of gacha games will incorporate many different types of currencies and numbers in order to confuse players. I actually really respect Smilegate in an odd way. They have this amazing video game that has their leveling mechanics feed people into interacting with their store constantly. Every day, you're going to go to the store, you're going to check how much your gold is worth that day, and eventually, something will inevitably catch your eye. There is no way of avoiding the cash shop. To play this game optimally, you must go to the cash shop, the company store. It is interlaced with many different materials that you will use in-game whether you decide to spend real money or not. And if you haven't been following anything gaming media related for the past 5 months, this is a classic strategy to get people to spend more money than they want. Statistically speaking, the the longer you spend looking at the cash shop, the more likely you are to spend real money on the game. It's preying on your reptilian brain. Think about the reason why one of the fastest growing niche jobs in the video game industry is for people that are working in the field of psychology. Okay, let's do a lot of math now. There are 4 main currencies in this game. Like silver, you're gonna use this a lot. You use it for small incidental shit like potions, but it's still integral to the honing system. You have gold. The entire game revolves around this currency and how much you can generate within a period of time. And then you have royal crystals and blue crystals, which are used exclusively to interact with the cash shop. Here's the kicker. This is the genius part, okay? So pay attention. The reason people say Lost Ark is a fair game, a game that actually respects your time, it's because you can use your in-game gold to purchase blue crystals to interact with the cash shop, effectively allowing players to buy cash shop items like convenience features without ever having to spend a dime. Buying things like extra honing materials or skins. The caveat is when you buy blue crystals with gold off of your cash shop, another player has to spend real money to buy royal crystals to get your gold. Math. Basically, the free-to-play player cannot flourish without the whales. These two systems are not independent from one another. They are deeply tied together, in fact. More real money being spent means more value for the free-to-play side. Look, I know that Smilegate is not a charity. That's why I have a really hard time deciding whether this is insidious or genius. Now, I want to bring up a mechanic that I'm deeply passionate about. And by deeply passionate, I mean I fucking hate it. And that's the Una Daily system. This system is absolute misery. It is an outdated MMO mechanic that serves nothing but to waste and artificially extend your playtime. But you may say, oh, it only takes 26 minutes to do all your dailies on all your characters. Like what? What? Is this your fucking job? Like, there's already a line to get into the game. Why the fuck do I want to get into a line so I can play the game? I play video games to kick back and have fun, not do menial tasks for menial rewards.
Hey yo, so this is the editing bruh, and as of mid-July 2022, Smilegate banned over 60% of their bot population, effectively reducing the amount of time that it takes to get into the game. So good job, Smilegate. But still a lot of fucking bots in this game though, so please do some more shit. Thank you.
For example, you might think that the quests might be more fun or engaging as time goes on, because these quests have different tiers. Maybe the next quest will be better, more dynamic. No, like here, I used to pick up 25 piles of scrap, but in the next tier, I just pick up 50 instead. Okay, it just got worse actually. Side quests range from carrying boxes, talking to some people, usually involving you doing some emo to interact with them, and slaying the occasional fodder monster. There may be an expansive and deep lore underneath all of this, but it is diluted by the sheer amount of useless interactions and filler content, making it hard to discern which quests are actually worthy of your time. What makes it even more frustrating is that some of the most important items in the game are tied behind this mechanic. That's including a large portion of your gold generation for the week. This is not a system you can afford to ignore in the long run. Whenever it's time to do my dailies, a feeling of dread washes over my soul. Vitriol and resentment fill my heart, and I often just skip it altogether. That's why the most valuable item to me in the cash shop is not the honing materials, or the card packs, or the skins. It's the daily instant completion tickets, allowing me to skip over this horrendous system entirely, a convenience fee. It kind of reminds me of when Spider-Man PS4 allowed you to skip their puzzles by pressing a button. Like, dude, you don't even believe in this mechanic. Why should I? Okay, let's do some more math. 50 instant completion tickets are worth 1100 blue crystals. Multiply that by 2.38. By the way, that's how you can roughly estimate how much something is worth in US dollarinos to blue crystals. Multiply 2.38 with 1100 and put the little dot there. That's $26.18. So Smilegate wants you to pay them $26 worth of gold to skip their shitty mechanic for 3 weeks. If you enjoy this mechanic in any way, shape, or form, I implore you to seek help for your mental illness and call your mother. We miss you. And fuck Fions, dog. They are a useless tax on a problem with the solution already built into the game. It serves nothing but to drive players to interact with the cash shop because they wouldn't have engaged with it otherwise. And I'm not piling on this one system in this big game in order to make it seem like your time spent grinding in the game is not worth it. Lost Ark is often referred to as a marathon, not a race, a game that you play for the long haul. But it is still indicative of a larger issue, the dichotomy of the free-to-play player and the mega whale, and how Lost Ark balances the power between the two. What is more important to you, your money or your time? All of Lost Ark's systems push the player to ask this question to themselves constantly. You see, in a lot of games, time is often used as a punishment to teach players about inefficiency. A timer at the corner of the screen, a clear time at the end of a level, saying you did it, but you could have done better. Timers are used as indicators to track player progress and skill. But in Lost Ark, time is punishment by design.
And I think it's gonna be a long, long time till touchdown brings me round again to find I'm not the man they think I am at home. Oh no, 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 I'm a Lost Ark man. Lost Ark man, burning out his fuse up here alone.
Lost Ark is not built like normal MMOs. You can't really grind anything. It has the very DNA of a mobile game. Nearly all the activities you engage with, at least the ones that are fun anyways, use the energy that you commonly see in other mobile games. Okay, story time. So, I have a friend that used to work in mobile game development. I'm not gonna say which game it is, but all I'll tell you is that it has to do with spaceships, alright? He told me that the company had severely underestimated how much time players would spend playing their game. The company thought that the average person would be playing around 1 to 2 hours a day. But in reality, there were some players that would just play all day long. And then all of the no-like gigachads would come in and absolutely destroy all the newbies. So they had to implement the energy mechanic into their game to stabilize the differences between player power. But then they found out that many players were also willing to pay for that energy. And the rest was history. You can do that in Lost Ark as well. You can buy energy for more time to get more mats from life skills, materials that directly transfer into boosting player power, or the Crystalline Aura, Lost Ark's version of a subscription model that can be bought with in-game gold. It was then that I realized that another part of Lost Ark's secret sauce was not only its combat, but its cash out mechanics. It's actually kind of good. It's actually kind of good. It's not exactly the most egregious thing in the world. It's very nice that you can buy many of the skins and items without actually spending any money. There's very little gambling. Every item has a set numerical value so the player can decide how much that item is worth to them. But why does it cost me dye to change the color of my skins? Why does it cost me currency for a functionality that's built into Microsoft Paint? The closest thing we have to scummy loot boxes is the card system, although the game doesn't really expect you to buy these until endgame. But even so, a gloom hangs over my shoulder. What is the morality of a system that allows players to enjoy the game absolutely free, but also allow people who make bad financial decisions to dig a hole as deep as they want? Lost Ark is not just some gacha game, it is a hardcore MMO, tested and tempered in Korea for 3 years before being brought to the West to compete with the likes of World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy XIV, absolute titans of the MMO industry. And unlike them, Lost Ark does not have a financial barrier of entry. There's no box fee, there's no monthly subscription fee, and it runs on a potato computer. There is very little resistance from the consumer side, but Smilegate still needs to make money. Lost Ark is a living, breathing world filled to the brim with content that's being updated every week and every month. It evolves year after year. They have to pay the bills somehow, and the pay-to-win business model has proven itself time and time again to be the most financially successful structure to follow. Lost Ark walks a very fine line between a libertarian's wet dream of an unregulated, laissez-faire capitalist paradise and a very hands-in type of interventionalism over a free market. And whether or not you choose to spend money in this game, you will encounter the same walls. There are daily obstacles in place in order to equalize the progression of the free-to-play player and the Mega Whale. You can only do Chaos Dungeons twice a day. You can only do Guardian Raids twice a day. All raiding content can only be done once a week. The honing system is based entirely on RNG. Holy shit, everything in this game is RNG. You can spend $100 more than your friend, only to get to the same place as him because of pure luck. You could swipe all you want, but at some point it becomes wildly inefficient to keep spending real money on gold. The exchange rate for real money to royal crystals is not competitive in the slightest, driving many players to seek third-party exchange services or RMT, real money transactions. This is considered cheating, by the way, according to Smilegate's TOS, so don't do it. You will get banned. But not really. It is so obvious that buying gold with real money is a terrible idea, but this sentiment is often lost on those with more money than sense. Spending real money is just honestly not a smart way to progress your character in the game. The more money you spend, the bottleneck gets tighter and tighter. It's all part of that secret sauce that I was talking about. A game where the beautiful whales can spread their beautiful fins and show all the little plankton their gorgeous and thick tail. But in reality, we're all just some fish in an aquarium, and Smilegate is controlling how fat we can get. Okay, so to wrap up this part of the video, Lost Ark's RNG progression system is sort of a double-edged sword. On one side, it could help to prevent Giga Chads from blasting past all the peasants and skipping old content altogether. But on the other side, if you were an outlier and you hit an 18-carat run of bad luck, you could be adding weeks or months of grinding to your calendar. Making a mistake in this game is extremely unforgiving. It is expensive to try new builds and new playstyles. And that sucks, considering that a whale could just swipe and skip all that grinding anyways. And that is the crux of the problem. Time is your punishment for being poor. Time spent engaging with side content in systems that do not hold up to this game's combat. Time spent getting better at the game. Time where you can be playing Elden Ring. Time spent doing anything else. This game is just so goddamn time consuming. Stand here for 30 seconds, do the same emo and play the same song 50 times in a row for 50 days. Hunt down every single collectible, even if it's for just that 1% boost in power, only to have your hard work eventually invalidated by someone with a better paycheck than you. Just because there are checks and balances in place to equalize player power and progression does not excuse the fact that you can still transfer real-world money into character power with just a couple of extra steps in between. Player power directly affects how much damage you deal and how much damage you can take, meaning lower challenge and faster clear times for all endgame content, influencing your social status within this MMO community. Every player will be forced to bask in your glory via the endgame screen. When you engage in group content, you will be judged on your gear and your gems, things that you can just buy off the auction house. If that doesn't prove my point, there are guilds that are exclusively for big dick whales. Then you begin to realize that the game was rigged from the start.
The game was rigged from the start.
The rich get richer and the poor get old, and the game is worse for it. So what type of player are you? Can you stomach grinding for a year to play the same content that the whales started playing 10 months ago? I was thinking about becoming a regular Lost Ark streamer. It is a great game to stream because everything takes so fucking long. You will reach affiliate in no time. It was then I realized I could never keep up with the other established content creators without spending absurd amounts of money or an absurd amount of time. And that is the other thing you need to know about transcending FOMO. The content and media you consume for Lost Ark are from people that have been playing this game in Korea, in Japan, in Europe for years. These people have a huge knowledge advantage over the game's mechanics and economics. You cannot reasonably expect a casual player to adapt quickly enough to keep up. Don't let all of the shiny lights get to you, is what I'm trying to say. Take your time with this game and you'll enjoy it a lot more. The days of the shitty mobile game are over, okay? Back then, it was so easy to tell exactly which games weren't worth your time. Terrible graphics, shoddy voice acting, blatant copyright infringement. You were able to decide to take your money elsewhere at a glance. But now, well, it turns out, to the surprise of absolutely fucking no one, mobile games make a metric shit ton of money. With money comes better budgets, better production, better marketing, wider reach, and most importantly, bigger teams of psychologists with all of the knowledge to separate a little more money from your wallet than you'd like. The subscription-based MMO model may be an ancient relic sooner than we think. This was the can of worms that I was talking about.
Ayoi karamahara, sorea makame anamaha. Ayoi karamahara, bakemama oe oe.
The best way to transcend FOMO is to go outside and touch grass. No, seriously, there are so many roadblocks preventing you from rushing ahead. Log in, get your rewards, do your Animal Crossing shit, and log off. Stack your rest bonus. It's actually a more efficient use of your time. Since this game is free to play, with a subscription model that you can buy with in-game gold, there is no pressure to keep playing every day unless you are trying to keep up with the top 1% of players. Over time, this game hands out a lot of free shit. Like, just look at this, I haven't even used half of it yet. Whenever there's a big content drop, more than likely there's going to be free power boosts and express passes to catch you up on all the relevant content. Lost Ark is a very different game than it was 3 years ago, and for an MMO, 3 years is a shockingly short amount of time. Quality of life features, more skins, and better uses of your time all get better as time goes on. It is a casual friendly game, backed by some of the quirkiest and passionate people that I've seen in a while.
They will give up the 70% profits. Wow. Gone. Gold is changed to gold. And they'll lose 70% profits. This will be better for new players and free to play. He's saying this is for the future. For the longevity of the game, we need to do this.
So go out. Go out and see the world. Finish that book. Write that song. Ask that girl out. Or, I don't know, jack off to Rule 34. I don't fucking know what you do, but just do it. Lost Ark is going to be waiting for you when you come back. When you pull back the curtains, you can see that Lost Ark has always been encouraging players to go outside by making their filler content so mind-numbingly boring that you would rather chew aluminum foil. And the worst part about it is that we did this. We allowed this to happen. The MMO community was so desperate and dry for content, Lost Ark was able to slide into the DMs of the MMO community. Lost Ark can be an enjoyable and even fair game for those that have self-control. Unfortunately, in the dopamine-addled hive mind that is the MMO community, I'm afraid there isn't much to go around. There are many players within this community who wear the free-to-play title like a badge of honor. I didn't spend a single dime on this game, as if they've unlocked some cheat code that no one else knows about. They cackle and laugh at the whale with their bloodshot eyes as their youth is being sapped from them. There is an odd polarity between the Plankton and the whale. If you spend too much money on the game, you're an idiot. If you spend too much time grinding in the game, you're an idiot. But there is a silent majority of people who are in the middle, like myself. dropping $5 to $60 on the game and calling it a day. Hungering for a passionate community that expresses themselves in a game created by passionate people with a vision. People who poured their heart and souls, years of their life into bringing accessible entertainment to the world. It makes it hard to decide whether this game is rigged at its core. My logic is clouded by visions of the late nights, laughing with my brother on Discord, the absolutely ridiculous fun I had doing raids and dungeons with similar-minded gamers. And as I sit back and enjoy the beautiful scenery, backed by a gorgeous soundtrack, I forget about the times I spent doing Night Fox Yoho for the 100th time in a row. I forget that all these systems, all the roads, lead back to the cash shop. Every bad voice line, every boring quest, every minute I spent doing Una's dailies. The song of 16 tons grows louder and louder in my head. What kind of economy am I participating in? Is it okay to immerse myself into a business model that turns basic features into a tax? How many lives need to be ruined? How bad does it need to get before government steps in? So Lost Ark poses the question, what is more important to you? Your money or your time? Well, I say it's both. Because if I was to choose between one or the other, then I choose both. I choose both. Oh, and the location of the 7th and final arc. Are you guys ready? It's in here. Right here. The 7th and final arc has been inside of us all along. Because once you decide to follow your heart and stop playing this grindy ass game, then you would have finally beat Lost Ark. Thank you for watching.
A poor man's made of muscle and blood and skin and bones. A mind that's a weak, but a back that's strong.
Ah, who am I kidding? Best game, best game, best game, best game ever, best game ever, best game ever.
Jesus Christ!
Am I gonna get it? Oh. I'm such a coomer, dude. I'm such a fucking coomer. Fuck.